The end of the Cold War brought with it a rise in intrastate violence and also allowed the then dominant US to take hegemonic control of the global world order. However, the signing of the Open Skies Treaty in 1992, with 34 member states from across the globe, changed the way in which trust issues were resolved between nations, allowing states to send unarmed surveillance aircraft into rival nations' airspace. The treaty, although signed in 92, took a full decade to fully fall into place, meaning that some serious groundwork would have been negotiated by military officers and diplomats alike. But the US Department of Defense have issued a statement of intent to withdraw from the treaty, with Trump blaming Russian lack of cooperation for the decision.
Russia and us have developed a very good relationship. As you know, we worked on the oil problem together. I think we have a very good relationship with Russia, but Russia didn't adhere to the treaty, so until they adhere, we will pull out. But there's a very good chance we'll make a new agreement or do something to put that agreement back together. But whenever there's an agreement that another party doesn't agree to, we have many of those agreements around the world where it's a two-party agreement, but they don't adhere to it, and we do. When we have things like that, we pull out also.
The statement claims that following consultation with US allies, the Americans have decided to withdraw as the agreement is no longer in the interests of the United States, an excuse that we're now becoming all too used to under the Trump government. The evidence the US claims justifies the decision is that it appears that the US have been denied access to Russian airspace on several occasions, with the last being in September 2019, when the Russian refused US spy planes to observe a Russian military exercise. However, one has to question, what would the reaction be if Russia wanted to fly, say for example, over Area 51? So why then is the US behaving in this way? It's clear that there are huge global priorities brought on by the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. Yet for the US, it seems that they're hell-bent on making more and more enemies, as its welcome has been exhausted, for example, in West Asia. Its relationship with China's falling apart. And now, this with Russia. Could this all be an attempt by Trump to win over his loyal redneck voters by distracting them from the troubles at home in order to put the blame for the mess on the shoulders of foreign states? It seems now that, thankfully, many people around the world are starting to critique the words and actions of a very incompetent President of the United States. Since his time in office, the decisions he's made, or at least been advised to make, have all resulted in global condemnation and scrutiny. With this very same decision to withdraw from the Open Skies Treaty, Trump's faced a legitimate backlash from the main target of the allegations, namely the Russians, who have adamantly denied Trump's words, with the Deputy Foreign Minister raising the notion that Trump's decision could destabilize Europe. From closer to home, the US Democratic Party issued a statement stating that such a move by the Trump government would ultimately benefit the Russian President Vladimir Putin by being formally allowed to refuse US spy planes into Russian airspace. Furthermore, a statement by a group of Democratic senators has raised a question as to the legitimacy of the Trump decision, citing that no consultation was made with the Senate, nor has a consultation with the allies of the US been stringent enough to merit the US pulling out of the treaty with the support and backing of others.
The United States has declared Russia in violation of the treaty and has now announced its intention to withdraw in 6 months, consistent with treaty provisions. The US has declared that it may, however, reconsider its withdrawal should Russia return to full compliance. NATO allies are engaged with Russia to seek Russia's return to compliance at the earliest date possible. NATO allies will continue to uphold, support and further strengthen arms control, disarmament and non-proliferation as key elements of our security.
According to Trump, unless a negotiation or refreshment of the treaty comes into place, the withdrawal of the US could spark a domino effect as Russia too leave the treaty, bringing back huge mistrust between the world's two most powerful militaries, meaning the harsh possibility of entering a new Cold War. However, the rules today have changed somewhat, and the world is now transitioning into a multipolar world order, meaning the likes of India, China, Iran, and many others are all in contention to change the way in which any Cold War scenario could play out, making the world a very tense place.